Welcome to the podcast, Everything Self-Love and Recovery. My name is Wendell Holmes. I'm the host, and today we have an exciting guest. I know I thought I was the exciting guest at one time, but we have Paul R. from Orlando, Florida, going to share his experience, strength, and hope with us about everything self-love and recovery. So, Paul, come in and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh man. All right. Paul Roberts, are raised in Las Vegas, Nevada. I just turned 40 this year. Let's see here.
The lost words. That's okay. That's all right.
Lost for words.
That's all right.
How did I end up here? I don't know. A little bit about myself. I don't really know, but I've been sober since April 26, 2022. I've been in recovery through AA. And I think we met, I don't know, I want to say maybe 6, 7 weeks ago. A morning meeting and just happened to share. And I heard your shares a couple of times. I shared, I'm not even sure how we came into contact, just through the chat there. And
Sure.
yeah, so this happened that way. And I think you shot me the message, hey, I do a podcast, check it out. Do you want to be a guest? And I'm just like, absolutely. Let me see.
Yeah, I probably bombarded your chat box like, hey, come do it. And I get a little silly sometimes around here, man, but it's good to be able to laugh and have fun and recover. Do you have family, occupation? Just a little brief, if you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. So software engineer, which is something I wanted to do my entire life. I think I was lucky in that aspect. If you asked me in fifth grade what I wanted to be when I grew up, I'd say a computer programmer, and that's exactly what I'm doing now. And I never had the identity crisis, I guess self-inflicted a little bit, but never wondering what my career path should be.
It's awesome.
How did I end up in Orlando? Florida is my geographic change. I had never heard the term geographic change until reading it and hearing about it in recovery. It was funny because that's exactly how I ended up here. My wife and I, and in 2014, decided that Vegas was the root of all of our problems. It was Vegas, the party lifestyle, all the crazy stuff in Vegas, and decided to get out of Vegas. And I got a job offer in Florida. Had recently traveled to Florida and just seemed it would be the answer to all the problems. Start over in Florida. And I brought myself, unfortunately.
Everywhere I go, I take me.
The misery, self-inflicted and other that I experienced in Florida was far greater than, and trouble I got into is far greater than anything I ever experienced in Vegas. So anyways, but that's how I ended up in Orlando.
Well, that'll work. I'm glad you're here. I ended up in Florida through a phone call to an AA hotline, and the guy on the other end said, "What is your problem?" And I told him I was on a long run and I seriously needed some help. He says, "We're good. I'm good. I think he had 6 years and 7 months. He says, I understand where you are. Can you get to the airport and get on the airplane?" And as I said, yes, probably 4 hours later, I was on an airplane headed to West Palm Beach to a recovery, a 28-day detox there in West Palm Beach. And my life has taken off since then. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad we got a chance to meet on Zoom. Basically, through my process and my journey, I came up with the term "you love you," and through the fourth step, fifth step, working the sponsor, working the 12 steps, I found out that I really didn't know what self-love was. And so I sought shadow work and all of that stuff to find out what self-love was and is. And I'm still on the journey of discovering and discarding and dealing with childhood trauma and the blueprint to self-love and all of those things. So that's why I heard you share the 12 steps, the message and not the mess. So I definitely welcome you to the show and just
Thank you.
I want to ask you a few questions. There's no right or wrong answers. We can discuss anything self-love and recovery or recovery. Just share with us what has been one of your important aspects of your self-love journey and maintaining sobriety.
Absolutely. I could probably talk about that for hours. However, I don't think I knew what self-love was, what self-care was prior to recovery. A huge personality defect of mine is people pleasing at my own detriment. I will try and help everybody, make everybody comfortable, and that's so subjective in my perception, everything good for everybody, whatever, at my own detriment. put myself last. And one of the very first things I think that that stood out to me coming into meetings when I had no idea, and I still have no idea. By the way, let me qualify everything. I have no idea what I'm doing 2.5 years in right now. Okay. I'm still a newcomer. I'm still figuring stuff out and growing in this program. But one of the very first things that stood out to me is like, this is a selfish program, right? So you have to make the decision to be sober for yourself, not for anybody else. And in order to show up for others, right? Be there for others. I got to be there for myself first. I got to be right. I got to be strong. I got to be ready for whatever if I'm going to be there for anybody else, right? And I had never understood that concept at all or heard that concept at all up until that point. So it's the decision to get sober is a selfish decision, right? And that has to be put over everything else. Like I said, I still 100% don't think I fully understand what that means, but that was hearing that and listening to other people share about that was a huge turning point, I think, for me very early on. And self-love. Where was I April 26, 2022? My career, myself, everything I was doing. I woke up every day saying, I'm never going to do this again. This sucks. Extremely negative. Every I was very negative, had a very bleak outlook upon everything. I was 240 pounds, sick, felt sick all the time, out of shape.
You're saying what I am today. Anyway, go
Man,
ahead. I'm sorry.
just in really bad shape mentally and physically and spiritually. I did the spiritual connection part, man. I'm sure we'll talk about that later. Like that just didn't exist at all. But so the self-love thing, and it's not a switch. Once I started feeling a little better I'm 2 weeks in. I feel better, right? I'm not like the poison's leaving my body. Now I want to run a triathlon and do an Ironman and all this crazy shit. That's not going to happen overnight. It's just completely unrealistic. It's my alcoholic brain being crazy unrealistic about everything. So it started with the evolution of a routine, which I'm super strict with myself on. It's essentially non-negotiable. And that includes spiritual health, eating healthy, working out every day, like just these rituals upon awakening, right? What am I doing in the morning? It's crazy how this is all blueprinted out for us. Filling my mind, filling my spirit, filling my body with good things, positive things before anything else, putting on my armor for the day and taking care of myself first before I go out into the world and show up for anybody else.
Absolutely. So the program talks about selfishness and self-centeredness. That was the root of our problem on page 62. And I know I have a few special pages that just stand out to me, and my sponsor quotes to me on a regular basis. But yes, and then when you come in, everybody says it's a selfish program. And balancing that, I got to be here, I got to do these things, I got to go to a meeting, and balancing it with life and job and work and dating or your wife as the present, my fiance, all of these things. And you say, okay, I was selfish while I was out there drinking and doing all the things I was. Now I got to be selfish in here. But fortunately, the 12 steps, I want to say show, but the 12 steps guided me to a balanced life. Now it's by no means balanced, like you say. I'm still trying to figure it out as well, but it still helps me balance my life. So I appreciate that.
I went in finding that balance 2.5 years in. I can 100% tell you, I went full tilt recovery at the detriment of other parts of my life, for sure, looking back on it. And I'm still figuring that out and what that balance is and where everything fits together.
Absolutely. The main thing that I've learned, and I had several sponsors and quite a few sponsors, but the main thing I learned was, okay, if I don't stay sober, there is no other life. And that's the message that I have to send in a loving kind of way. Used to be, it was like, man, the hell what you going through, we'll do what I got to do. And I don't care what you feel like, what you got planned or anything of those natures. But today, I understand that I do have to be responsible for my recovery, and nothing else will be if I don't stay sober. Because me, under the influence of alcohol and drugs, don't give a damn about nothing.
Everything else is out the window.
Right. And that's right. So I appreciate you sharing that. What strategies or tools have you found most effective in navigating life's challenges while staying sober?
That's a very good question. Strategies and tools. AA gives us this big, huge toolbox. The forum we're in right now, which is cool. We're not in a meeting. We're not surrounded by, I don't have the fear right now of saying something that's not 100% AA doctrine and that being a problem, right?
Right.
So there's tools outside of what's talked about in it that I use a lot of as well. Right.
What strategies or tools have you found most effective in navigating life's challenges while staying sober?
Okay, absolutely. Navigating life's challenges, man, because great question. And what I thought was a challenge in life, something that would have blown me up, thrown me over the edge, tripped me up big time. Things I'm dealing with now are much, much greater than in magnitude than any of that stuff. And it's no big deal. It's just part of life. And it's, it's something to navigate. So how do I navigate that? I think coming into AA, the decision to get sober started before that very first day. And I was reading books like Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, listening to Wes Watson's pod or videos and stuff on YouTube, a couple other guys, strong men, guys I looked up to, and man, I want to be like this. And to a common thread among all these guys, they don't talk about AA, they don't talk about recovery, they don't talk about any of this shit, but a very common thread is sobriety. We don't drink. We don't use drugs. That's just not part of this lifestyle. It doesn't work with this lifestyle. And I'm like, okay, well, that's badass. I need to get sober. Had no idea how to do it. I knew what AA was because my dad was an alcoholic. I knew he had been in AA and dabbled in AA. I think I went to an AA meeting with him when I was like, I don't know, 6 years old or 7 years old or something like that. So I knew what AA was because my dad, and alcohol killed him in 2012. He died from alcoholism, death certificate, chronic ethanol abuse caused it. 100% that shit will kill you. I knew what AA was. So I used these positive messages a lot early on and just getting hyped on other people who were sober, were kicking ass, and had what I wanted and listening to them. I think the serenity prayer and having never really prayed in my life and now learning this prayer and being able to that was like the very first little bit of tapping into spirituality. Had no idea what I was praying to or who I was praying to. And the routine of knowing that I'm going to be in this meeting every day at the same time and having that, right? So early on, that's really what it was that brought that peace. Then finding, that spiritual awakening, man, amazing friend, amazing woman in recovery, randomly on the phone one day, do you want to pray with me? And non-denominational Christian, right? Shares, he just starts, didn't ask for it, nothing. I can't even tell you how, why, anything. Starts sharing all this knowledge with me. And that was definitely a spiritual moment. Praying with another person, I think, is something I'd never really done ever. Then jumping in, freaking both feet into learning about Christianity, reading Lee Strobel's Case for Christ. And then to me now I'm like, I probably, because my head's clear now, I'm a year plus in a recovery or close to it. And I'm like, this is so freaking easy. How the heck am I like almost 40 years old and I never, it doesn't necessarily, like, I'm not going to go Bible thump and be like, I'm a Christian in this and that's the only way. No, I mean, that's literally the path, the point I'm at now on this spiritual journey. A year from now, it could be totally different. It is going to be different a year from now because this is a daily learning process, man. And a daily exercise connecting with the higher power. Eyes all understanding. That's now is that it's something too that I heard. Whatever's supposed to happen is what's going to happen. Like I literally all I got to do is show up. I got to show up. I got to show up in the right mindset. I got to show up and put the effort in. That's all I got to do, man. Whatever happens, that's what's supposed to happen. You want to talk about stress relief, understanding that and really like completely embodying that. And I believe that. What I just said, I believe that 100%. Whatever's supposed to happen is going to happen, man. And I don't have control over that. I just got to show up. Anxiety gone, stress gone, freaking, I can just show up.
Absolutely.
And I'm not showing up hungover. I'm not showing up unprepared. I'm not showing up freaking out that whatever. That's it. So that's the main move. I hope that I didn't ramble off too far off topic.
No, that's quite all right. Because to each and every one of us, there are a boatload of tools in this program. And I think you mentioned it earlier with having a regular routine. And then once we come in and work the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, the 12 steps is having had a spiritual result, having had a spiritual experience as the result of these steps. I got that confused early on when I came in. When they said religion, the third step says made a decision to turn my will and my power and my will over to a care of God as I understood him. I said, I got it. I've been a Christian all my life. I've been a deacon early along in my first marriage. It was deacon. Yeah, that'll make me a better husband. That'll make me a better man. I'll stop drinking as much, all of those things. And that was not the way it happened. Wasn't that filled me. I felt the religion at the time. To fast forward to where we're at right now, I've worked the 12 steps and I've had that spiritual awakening. And some of the tools is, like you say, going to a meeting a day. And I repeat it every time in the meeting. Get a sponsor, work the steps in order with a sponsor, pray to a power greater than yourself that you find in these rooms and in the 12 steps. Go to a meeting, read a page of the big book. And of course, my very last thing is help a mofo. But that all came about. That all came about through daily showing up, using some of the tools, working the steps,
And
reaching out. Go ahead.
help a mofo. Step 12, service to others was, and I'm so thankful for it. Lucky enough to have somebody, I think right around my 90 days, man, you're almost at 90 days, man. You can be in service, right? This particular meeting that was my home group really pushed me into that, man, way out of my comfort zone. Like I could never talk to somebody like this
Right.
back then. And it's something I had heard from Wes Watson actually is you think you got a problem, go solve somebody else's. Not knowing what that meant at all, but getting out of self in service to others. That's a huge part of my program.
That is. My sponsor used to tell me, I used to tell him, man, I'm bored, I'm depressed, I'm this, that, or the other. He used to get up and go help somebody. His problems would go away. And that was a concept I did not understand. But the minute I turned my attention to helping someone else, my problems don't seem so bad. They just not. So I appreciate you sharing that. And of course, as I stated early along, I'm on location. I had internet issues, so I'm outdoors enjoying the beautiful sunshine. So if you hear an airplane going by or whatever, it's still part of the program. Now, whatever's going to happen is going to happen, as you said. And let's still appreciate you. Let's see. How has your perspective on living life? We just talked about that, living life on life terms. It's going to happen, whatever it is. It's going to happen. So can you share a specific moment or experience that tested your self-love and sobriety and how you overcame it?
Oh yeah. Recently, right? And I'm not going to share specifics just because like anonymity and all that stuff involved, but 100%, man, tested my sobriety, tested the program, tested everything, tested my humility, ego, all this stuff. Hopefully you didn't hear that guy just fly past on a motorcycle. Holy smokes.
I
Going
did.
1,000 miles per hour down the street there.
You said ego.
Now, this is recent. This happened 2 months ago. I'm super strong in my program. Feel great, getting in freaking amazing shape, helping people. I got sponsees. I got this awesome circle of friends, this home group, and this. To me, what happened to me is that I think a personality defect of mine is attention seeking a little bit.
No, not an alcoholic, huh?
It goes along with the people pleasing and being involved in recovery, in service, and people telling you how freaking great you are. You're doing awesome. Like that ego started creeping up more and more without me even freaking knowing. Personality defects that I've learned this now. So it's crazy, right? Step 6 and 7, humbly asking God to remove these defects of character. In the big book, and specifically in the big book, there was like 3 paragraphs devoted to step 6 and 7. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's like, all right, God, take away my defects of character. Thank you. Peace out. Let's go on. You have now completed step 7. It literally says on the big book. Yes, it does. Not understanding that and really taking that super seriously at that point in time. But then, like I said, about 2 months ago, I started realizing that it was an issue, but not addressing it a little bit, probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago. To be 100% honest with you, man, some developing relationships with other service members of the opposite sex that were not appropriate. And I knew this. And and I knew it was wrong and continued it because it felt great to have someone tell you how awesome you were, right? And you get
Absolutely.
that attention and that little dopamine hit when you guys talk to each other. And I'm literally coming to the point to where I'm like praying to God, I need you to show me a way out of this. That's not, I didn't see a way out. When you ask God to remove these things, you ask God for any, you ask God to remove these things, though, it might get ripped off like a Band-Aid in a way that does not feel good or you want, or that what you think would be the best way, but it's going to happen. I can 100% attest to that. It happened to me. So it was a blow up. It was super embarrassing. I definitely hurt people in the process and it's literally just not being honest. It's so crazy looking back. I could have just rewind 7, 8 months ago and just literally tell someone, hey, I can't talk to you like this. No big deal. And I
Right.
don't know why. That's the people pleasing part of me. It was this huge problem, like in my head. Oh my God, I'm going to hurt their feelings. I'm going to ruin their life. I'm going to screw up their sobriety. Blah, 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 blah. Massive gut punch, massive ego deflator. People pissed at me, super pissed at myself.
Yeah.
How the hell did I end up here? I thought I was doing so awesome. Right?
Just levitating.
What happened? And I'm telling my spine, I was not 100% transparent about all this with my sponsor, but when it first started, I told him, and he's dude, just think about it. I have an awesome sponsor, by the way. Hopefully we get to talk about that a little bit later, but no, he straight up told me, he's like, dude, I've been in the same situation. This guy's been sober for 25 plus years. I've been in the exact same situation, gave me an exact example. As like, just think about where it's going to end.
Yes.
So right. 100% right. Anyway, so I tell him, I like come clean with everything that's going on. He's just, yeah, dude. And I'm like, should I do this? Should I do this? Should I do this? What should I tell this person? He's like, dude, don't. He's like, you're trying to control the outcome. It's still, don't do anything. Like, just come clean, pray about it, and let it go. Right. So, huge learning experience where and 100% that could have sent me off the ledge, off the rocker. If I did not have trusted mentors to turn to and the ability to introspect and all these tools, if that wasn't there, it would have just been an awful come.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So I'm going to try to unravel everything you just said in a few words. 6 and 7. The sixth step is became entirely ready to have God remove my shortcomings. And the seventh step says humbly ask him to remove my shortcomings. So like you said, there's only 2 or 3 paragraphs in there. And a funny story, side note, I go to a Thursday night meeting where my sponsor goes, and they pass out the 12 steps to individuals in the meeting. So they'll read how it works. And then the person that has number 1 reads, and so on and so forth. He passes them out to the individuals that he thinks needs to work on that particular step. So he gave me step 6. I'm like, man, the big book is only 2 paragraphs. Yeah, I'm ready. Yeah, I'll humbly ask him next. There's no work that I can do because if I could have removed my defects, then I would have. But anyway, back to he passed me step 6. And I says, man, I did this. I looked straight at him and he says, I pass them out to people who I think needs to work on. And he said, did you read step 6? And I said, yes. He says, but I don't think you're displaying entire readiness. Man, I was hot. To call my sponsor so he could tell his sponsor to leave. Quit picking on me in the meeting. But either way, you have to be entirely ready. And we have to have that power, and then we have to allow it to happen. And when they do crop up, as you did, a specific moment, what do I do? And then you talked about a sponsor. A sponsor is just an individual that has worked at 12 steps, have probably heard my 5th step where I admitted all of my faults and wrongs to him and God, and then helps guide me away from the pitfalls of ego, being entirely ready, and all the other things that crop up. So that's my experience with step 6. And I think I wrapped it up. A sponsor is someone that guides you through the program. And they're not here to tell me exactly what to do, but usually they do because they know my shortcomings. If I tell him, hey man, I'm getting ready to go turn a couple of corners and maybe pick up a chick or something, probably say that didn't work out too good for you last time. How you think it's going to work out this time? I appreciate you. In what ways has your childhood trauma, if any, and by all means, don't divulge anything you're not comfortable, and we can pass it if need be. But it says, what ways has your childhood trauma, if any, played a role in your recovery and self-love journey?
Yeah, it's easy. That's easy for me to answer, man, because my very first interaction ever with alcohol was negative. And very early age, that was not me consuming alcohol. That was my biological father was an alcoholic. My parents separated, and I don't know my exact age, but I was very young. Very my earliest memories are this. And it was bizarre behavior from my dad. And even at my toddler age or however old I was, it was dad's not acting right. Something's wrong. Something's off. Um, and then he's gone one day, and where is he? And because he's an alcoholic, he has a problem with alcohol. So I knew what the word alcoholic was probably before a whole lot of other words in my vocabulary, and I didn't know what alcohol was to the point where I'd see a bottle of rubbing alcohol in the house as a little kid and get this crazy horrible feeling. That's the bad stuff, and that crazy horrible feelings, anxiety. I had horrible anxiety as a child, not knowing what it was until later in life. And in my early 20s, panic attacks, even in high school, panic attacks, and not knowing what that was, just like I didn't know why I was feeling this way, but things would trigger me. Yeah. So then it's just all in any time my parents are separated, my biological father still tried to be a part of my life at certain points when he had his shit together enough to do, and would call the house drunk randomly one day. And that would give me horrible anxiety because now my mom's upset. He's in trouble. It was just bad. Something was wrong. There was a bad problem because this, right? And shit, that should have scared me away from alcohol ever right there, going through all that stuff, but it didn't, unfortunately. So yeah, and that was always a factor is, like, I'm never going to end up like that.
Right.
And I'm never going to do anything that crazy. And really towards the end there, man, something that, first of all, I was in Vegas. I can't remember if it was vacation or a work thing or whatever, but this, I want to say what, 29, it might've been 2020, 2019, just completely wasted, show up at my mom's house. And she literally told me, "You're acting like your dad." And that hit me so hard. And then just looking at myself in the mirror and knowing that I'm literally doing things that I watched this dude do that I thought were horrible. Or why would anybody be that stupid? Or why would anybody do that? Now I'm doing the same shit. I'm like, oh my God, man, I can't live with myself like this. So yeah, that was always on my mind, drinking it. And maybe, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I've never peeled back the onion on this stuff, but I 100% can tell you every single time I drank or consumed alcohol or did any drug or anything, I felt guilty immediately because of that early childhood experience with substance abuse.
Absolutely. So would you say the 12 steps have helped you begin to identify some of that stuff?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, that and many other things. Without a
Absolutely.
doubt.
That began my
And I'd
journey.
say,
Go ahead.
yeah. And the resentments that, dude, want to talk about learning words. I didn't even know what the freaking, I can't remember hearing the word resentment. I'm sure I had until, the age of 38, but not knowing what that was, not knowing what that is inside of me, the anger, all that, no idea. And then being able to let go of those towards my father and a whole lot of other people.
Absolutely.
Huge weight off my shoulders, man. You want to talk about like the weight of the world being released in step 5, man. Holy shit.
So basically talking about the steps, one, I admitted I was powerless over alcohol. It came to powerless over alcohol and my life was unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God, which I understood. 4, made a list, took a personal inventory.
Searching is fearless.
Searching a fearless, thank you. Searching a fearless moral inventory of myself. And then the 5th step, admitted to God and another human being the exact nature of that inventory. And resentments, the book talks about, is the number one offender. And so then it goes on to talk about the grouch and the brainstorm is the dubious luxury of other people. This book was written by people, doctors and lawyers, and Dr. Bob. Anyway, I will go back to show because I could quote the big book and I still ended up drinking on a daily basis. So knowing the book doesn't mean knowledge unapplied is still just knowledge. My dad, we grew up in Akron, Ohio. I seen him in St. Thomas Hospital right there in Akron, Ohio, where all of AA began back in 1935 and printed in 39. I swore that I would not end up like him. And I got the same thing. You're acting just like your dad. And I couldn't understand it better. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. No, I'm not trying to show off as far as quoting the steps and everything, but to help the listener to understand that there's a process that gets me further beyond in life besides just not drinking. The 12 steps, as you will hear and have probably heard, changed Paul's life and has definitely changed my life to a point where I finally found self love and found out who I was in this program through working the steps, through giving back, through all the things that we learned through doing the soul steps. Thanks again. Sorry to go off on the tangent.
No, man,
It was,
it's awesome.
I have
And
a
funny
tendency to
thing,
do that.
step 4, definitely want to say this because early on, right? So I got a sponsor. I got a sponsor first day. Thank God. That literally was God's shot right there. I had no idea. But on the path to step 4, all I hear in meetings was step 4 is the hardest. Step 4 makes people relapse. Step 4 took me 5 years to get whatever. I'm exaggerating there, but you hear all this crazy shit about step 4. So I had this preconceived notion going in that step 4 is going to be impossible. How am I ever going to do this? Especially that very weakened state and vulnerable state going in. So that's a pet peeve of mine, I guess, or resentment. We're airing out it right now. But if you're listening, you haven't done step 4 yet, do not be scared of step 4. It is the most liberating. And it's not something that I only did one time in my life, that exercise. It's clearing up the wreckage of the past, though, for sure, and removing these spiritual blockages. But I get to step 5, or so I'm like, finally with my, he gives me a deadline. He's like, dude, come on, we got to have something done by then. So we do this. We plan on, we're going to talk about it. So we get on the phone and I'm like, let's do my step 4. And he's okay, let's open up your 12 and 12 and let's read step 5. And I'm like, what are you talking about? We're doing step 4. Well, I had no idea. Anyways, the end of all that though was literally starting out crazy nervous, palms sweating, crazy anxiety. 15 minutes into the conversation, that's all gone. Now I'm in like flow state. This stuff's just coming out. By the end of it, the weight of the world off my shoulders, man. Literally life-changing experience doing step 5 with my sponsor.
Absolutely. The book talks about no one likes the leveling of one's pride and something of the leveling of one prize and a total inventory, which will, I'm gonna mess it all up. But anyway, that's in the book also. Look it up. AA, leveling of one's self pride, and you'll see a whole 3 or 4 pages. It talks about self pride, the ego. Page 62, we suffer from 100 forms of fear, selfishness, dishonesty, deceit, and all of those things. So, all of the stuff, if I'd have got what I thought I was going to get out of Alcoholics Anonymous, I would have shortchanged myself a long time ago. I never would have found some of this stuff that I blocked out as my childhood. So it is excellent process. Hate that I had to go from a cucumber to a pickle and I can't go back to drinking, but today I have no desire to drink. Nothing against drinking. I mean, it's self-will and only myself can say that I'm an alcoholic when I'm an alcoholic. And an alcoholic to me is not the bum with the trench coat and the bottoms down the street. As you see, Paul R. is a computer science engineer. I'm a master electrician. It affects every form and every walk of life. If you're newer than us, or if you're concerned or even interested, I'll have links in the description and in the text of this chat. Al-Anon, AA, org, sponsorship, all of those things are all terms and knowledges that we learn through working in 12 steps. I would love to keep this conversation going, but one thing I would like to ask you is one of the suggestions you would suggest to someone that's struggling with alcohol and self-love and recovery.
Ooh, wow. Something I would suggest, if you're listening to this and you have not found Alcoholics Anonymous, or you've been into a meeting or two and didn't like what you heard or something, I would highly encourage you to go check out more meetings and find a place you feel comfortable. And even if you don't feel comfortable, sit there with I call it a beginner's mind. And this is straight from my sponsor. Okay. I didn't make this up. A beginner's mind in the sense that you're not like drop any preconceived notions or judgments of these other people, right? Someone might come up in their story. They might believe in something you don't believe in. Don't judge them by that. Their story might include something that rubs you the wrong way or you can't directly relate to, don't worry about that. Just sit there and listen. And I can 100% guarantee you, without a doubt, that you're going to hear something that you can relate to and that is going to touch your heart. So keep, not to sound cliche or whatever, but keep coming back, but just immerse yourself in there and keep trying. And you will find a home, right? Especially with Zoom and all this stuff online. It is absolutely amazing. There are groups. First of all, there's meetings 24/7 starting every like 15 minutes all around the world online. If you're in a big city, there's meetings all around you, probably closer than you think. There's the Meeting Finder app, which is very handy. You find meetings all around you, but just if you go to a meeting or you don't hear something you like, don't let that stop you from going back. And it's not, you're not, I was not cured overnight. I didn't feel better the next day, but finding recovery and this huge fellowship of people who are on this common thread from all different backgrounds, man. I'm talking from on the streets, homeless on a freaking their Zoom on their cell phone to freaking whatchamacallit, orthopedic surgeon. And I'm not making that up. I know this guy. Okay. Both of those guys I know, and they're in the program still. So it's finding this for me, finding this huge fellowship of these people on this common path, and then finding people that I can relate to. It doesn't necessarily need to be someone you're going to relate to, but I can see this person I relate to and I look up to them, can talk to them openly, don't have to have any freaking worry about judgment or anything, and find these mentors and progress. You know, if only today it's 1% or whatever, it's moving in the right directions. That's the advice that I would give is just don't give up on it. Don't give up on yourself and just keep trying, and it's going to happen. It will happen. What is it? If you go to a barbershop enough, you're going to get a haircut or something like that. That's right. If you stick around a bunch of sober people long enough, you're probably going to end up sober.
Absolutely. Or they'll win the sober person over back in them. I was the one who went back several times. I will raise my hands. Basically, what I was told along the same lines is look for the similarities. There is something in one meeting somewhere, and that's the purpose of that's what I say I go back to a lot of times. My story will help one other individual. I just don't know what meeting that individual is in and where I'm going to find them. So I have to continue to show up. I have to continue to tell the truth about me. I always say opinions is like elbows. Everybody has two. But if they tell you this is my experience, you might be able to listen to them and learn from them. So listen to learn, look for the similarities. Like you say, if it's a bad meeting or you don't like an individual, try to get past the individual that you're looking at and listen for the message. Because somewhere I was taught early on that the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous has 164 pages that was never changed or haven't been changed till here recently. From 39 to 2001, 4 editions were did, but the first 164 pages stays intact. And then there's stories towards the end. My sponsor told me when I first saw him, he says, here's a book, read any page in that book. And if you can find something you're related to on that page, you might be an alcoholic. So come back tomorrow and read another page of the book is what he used to always tell me. So I heard you say a lot about your sponsor and you wanted to share something or some inspiration or whatever it is. So tell us a little bit about your sponsor or your understanding.
Absolutely. So I didn't realize at the time how lucky I was. I do realize now after having worked with other people and heard other people's stories and their experience with finding a sponsor is that finding a sponsor, the first one might not be your sponsor for life, right?
So can I stop you there?
Yeah,
So did you have a bunch of questions and did you interview him like I did, or did you just,
no, not at all. I was desperate. The gift of desperation, man. This is April 26, 2022, man. The day I had enough, I didn't know what else to do. Found an evening meeting. And they had literally, dude, within the first 30 minutes or 30, not 30 minutes, 30 seconds of being in this meeting in the little chat thing. It's if you need a sponsor, shoot an email here. And I'm like, okay, I don't know why I did. I can't tell you why I did. I didn't think I needed a sponsor or I didn't know what I needed. But I email this. By the end of the meeting, I get an email back and it's the men's sponsor list. It's got I don't know, 30 names on it, phone numbers, some without phone numbers and emails. And I texted every single number on the list, dude, shotgun approach. Right.
Wow.
I was like, I need to talk. I need help. I don't know what to do. My sponsor is the guy that texts me back. Hey, what's up? Want to chat? That's literally what he said, something along those lines. And that started that conversation. And like I said, the dude's amazing friend, mentor, not just my sponsor, man. And I think that's what happens. Like as this relationship grows is it's a mentorship. And because not only has this dude been through the 12 steps, he's been through a lot of these trials and tribulations and just life things. And he's done them in sobriety over the last 25 years and can share that experience with me and offer guidance and mentorship and help with that stuff. It's absolutely an amazing relationship. And something that, and I don't know if this is a modern phenomena or whatever, going down that rabbit hole, but what I have noticed is a pattern, and I'm not like, this is complete anecdotal evidence, right? To take that with a grain of salt, but something I have noticed in recovery is like 30 to early 30s to early 40s age range males, for whatever reason, and myself included, and I want to a T, to have are lacking strong male friendships and strong male mentors.
Absolutely.
I had none until that point, or they had fallen off long ago at that point in my life. And I didn't even realize what a huge problem that was until it started coming back, man. And that's a huge part of this fellowship and having a sponsor and now being a sponsor myself to other men. It's a huge thing. How that's working out. You got a few that's as tough as you were. Say that again.
You have a few sponsees as tough or was messed up as you were when you came in, or not
Oh
messed
my
up. I won't
goodness,
say
man.
messed up, as desperate as you were. I'll say that.
Yeah. And I think that I'm such a different person now that I don't even really know exactly what I look like through the eyes of other people at that point in my life, man. And I'm sure it was pretty bad. But yeah, seeing, it's, I was there on a day one. This is the coolest thing, man, about my sponsor told me literally on the first call. There's no better high. There's nothing else, no better feeling in the world than watching someone else get sober and being part of that. And I had no idea what he's talking about. But
Absolutely.
I was the new guy for a short period of time, man. And you stick around, you're not the new guy for very long. And you got other guys coming in on day one. And you can see that look in their eyes. You can hear that sound in their voice, and you can relate to that, man. I could relate to that. And that's, there's no sponsorship handbook. There's no playbook to follow. That's really what it is. It's like, for whatever reason, like you were saying a second ago, like you're going to say something, I'm going to say something that someone else is going to relate to. That's exactly how it happened, man. Is, guy, I had no idea who this person was, whatever, but they're like, you said something to me in one of your shares last week that spoke directly to me and helped me get, over a year. And like they got sponsees. And I even remember freaking texting my sponsor when I found out one of my sponsees had a sponsee. I'm like, this is crazy. This is the craziest thing ever. I text my sponsor. I'm like, dude, you're a great grand sponsor now, or something like that.
Nice.
But no, it's absolutely amazing. Seeing the transformation in people and literally going from
dead to
on
alive.
death's door, really
From
on
dead
death's
to
door to a fully functional, badass human, like completely different person, man. It's amazing.
Man, Paul, I really enjoyed and appreciate this conversation. I could go on, and I'm sure you could, about the
Oh yeah.
sponsors I've had in my life. My first one was appointed to me when I came in. He told me, "You smart enough to kill yourself. Sit down over there and listen." I was down, man, bad. I was down bad. That was early on. That was 91. I've been coming in and out of recovery, and that's not nothing. It's not a requirement to relapse. You can get this thing let's say that for sure. You can get this the first time around. The first time you admit that you're an alcoholic, you can stay sober the rest of your life. Countless other excuses why I went back. And my sponsor, I told him one time why I gave him this whole list. He listened to me for about 5 minutes. He says, "You know what? You sound like an insane man explaining insanity to me." I was like, "What you?" It is insane for me to be relieved of alcoholism. The physical attraction, the physical requirement, or the physical, I can't even think of the word. The doctor's opinion says we suffer from a threefold disease: physical, spiritual, and mental. once we get rid of the physical addiction, the spiritual and mental still has to be dealt with. And that's what the 12 steps deal with. It's the spiritual and mental. Any last parting words? I got to end this because I don't want to, but any last parting words?
Man, it's crazy how fast that time just flew by. No, I freaking so appreciate you, Wendell. So glad we met. We're all like on the good morning list, man. See you in the morning. And just know this, and what you do here with this podcast is a really special thing, man. So I'm just so grateful that I could be a part of this and just talk to you, man, have this conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, parting gifts or parting anything, parting.
Gifts. I did not.
No, if you are listening to this and you're still in the throes of active addiction, man, it's not, your life's not over. Whatever problems are perceived to be these huge problems are not that big. They're not that big of a problem. Sobriety is the foundation. And it took me a minute to figure this out. All this other shit going on in my life, relationship stuff, work stuff, career, blah, blah, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Without sobriety and the foundation of sobriety, nothing else matters at all. Wendell, you talked about a second ago, getting rid of that craving, the physical, mental, that I'm gonna forget the damn word right now, whatever, but being lifted. To me now, I would literally rather put a loaded gun in my mouth than touch alcohol. I know that if alcohol or drugs touches my body, I'm screwed. That's it. That's game over. That's me going back beyond zero. I don't even know where that goes. I don't want to find out. And I know that. And I've got to remind myself of that every single freaking day. That's what going to meetings is. That's what fellowshipping with others like you, Wendell, every single day and just living this life keeps constant in my mind. And it's amazing, man, living this life of recovery. So, and I was in horrible shape mentally, physically, man. It was like, it seemed like it was all over. So if you feel that way, go to a meeting, reach out to Wendell, reach out in the comments for it takes.
Definitely.
And there is, if you're still here with us and breathing, there is a solution. It's not over yet. So it doesn't have to get worse. So I guess
Wow.
I can end on that.
What an amazing interview and question. And just sit back talking about everything self-love and recovery. You've been listening to the podcast, Everything Self-Love and Recovery, where my guest, Paul R., has broke it down, built it up, and told us how life is today. And today, life is good. I can look the world in the eye. I can look him in the eye. He can look the world. After working the 12 steps, we have started working on our grosser handicaps as the all of the things that we've done in our life. And I'm sure he's asked for forgiveness. And I think one of the questions in here was talking about forgiveness, but I know it's all in your story and in your life. And who knows, in the future, we might come back and revisit this thing about a year from now. I will say, since you mentioned gifts, I usually offer the speaker or my guest an item from my Shopify store. So if you're a guest, if you want to speak on the show, I have a Shopify store that's called helpamofo.com. And you can go to that website, click shop, or pick something in there. Let me know what it is. Send it to me, size, color, whatever, and send me your address and I'll be sure to get it to you. That's helpamofo.com. We're talking everything self-love and recovery. I'll put all the information in there. You've been listening to the podcast. And Paul R., thank you so much. Man. Peace and blessings to you and your family.
Thank you, sir. I'll see you in the meetings. Thank you so much, friend.
Awesome.
Beautiful.